Ողջույն բոլորիդ հարգելի հայրենագիտներ, ուրախությամբ կփարևեմ ձեզ։ Հորիզոն հայկական հերոստակայանի բաստարեն ես Մանուկ Սերայդարյանն եմ եւ սա մեր հերթական հանդիպումն է։ Հորիզոն ուղի եթեր յուրաքանչյուր շաբաթ մենք կհանդիպենք եւ կշոշափենք իրարու այդ թեմա, որը կգարձենք կամ կհավատանք, որ մեզի համար հետաքրքրական է եւ նշանակալից։ Ահավասիկ անգամ եւս այս շաբաթ այս բարակային ես չերմորեն եւ լրջորեն կհավատամ թեմամը կշոշափենք, որ անպայմանորեն մեզ մի յուրաքանչյուրին կյանքին հետ կապ ունի, որովհետև ունի իր մեջը մեծ բնույթ, փիլիսոփայական, մարդկային, քաղաքական եւ այս բոլորին մասին ամիջապես կովասներեն հետո։ Եվ այսպես հարգելի հայրենագիտներ կվերամիանանք եւ փաստորեն գսկսենք, միայն գսկսենք մեր երթը, քիչ առաջ ընդամենը ողջույն եւ ներածական էր։ The sins of the fathers, հայրերու մեղքերը։ Խոսքը որ հայրերու մասին է եւ խոսքը որ մեղքերու մասին է։ Այս մասին կխոսենք մենք այս երեկոյան, փաստորեն նաեւ այս ինչ որ ասի the sins of the fathers քրկիմը, որ արդեն կտեսնեք սեղանի վրա, քրկիմը խորակիրն է։ Ինչու համար այս խորակիրը, ինչ կվարունագի այս գիրքը եւ ինչու համար գրված է այս գիրքը, այս բոլորի մասին կխոսենք քրքի հեղինակ մտավորական եւ պրոֆեսոր Siobhan Nash-Marshall-ին հետ։ Միացեք ինձ եւ ողջունենք պրոֆեսոր Siobhan Nash-Marshall-ը։ Siobhan, բարի երեկո։
Շնորհակալություն։
Նկատեցիք, որ արդեն Siobhan-ը բավական լավ նաև հայերեն կխոսի եւ բարարբար կհետևեր իմ ներածականից եւ բարարբար կհասկնար ինչ որ կսեի, այնպես որ ուշադիր եղեք եւ եկեք ողջունելի հետ անցնենք առաջ։ So one more time, good evening, Professor Nash-Marshall, and let's start with the title of the book. This is a newly published book, just out of the press, and is going to be presented, we'll talk about it tomorrow in Glendale. But why the sins of the fathers? Who are the fathers and what sins are you referring to?
Well, the other night I had a long conversation with Serbazan Anushavan Tanyelian, who asked me the same question. And he had 4 answers.
He had 4 answers. Okay. And
I think they are right. The sins of the fathers comes from a passage in the Bible in Deuteronomy. And in Hebrew it's Pokedam Bonavot, and it means the sins of the fathers will be visited on the son for 3 to 4 generations. Now, which fathers? Obviously the Turkish fathers.
In this case?
Not only Turkish, though.
Okay.
The Turks.
The reason I said in this case, we're not going back to the Bible.
No, in this case, of course.
All right. All right. Let's continue.
So, the sins of the fathers, the Turkish fathers, so the fathers of the Turkish Republic. The fathers in the West, so Germany, those who taught the Turkish fathers to build republics the way they did.
To be the type of the fathers they were.
Exactly. So we're talking university professors. And we're talking politicians. So.
How about philosophers?
Also. Above all. Because they're the ones who educated everyone to become that way.
Isn't that or at least looks like a cycle? Because as you just now said, the German professors, the politicians, the philosophers, the intellect or the intelligentsia, in one word, taught the Turkish fathers. However, the German, at least political intelligentsia, later on retook the lesson from the Turkish fathers and applied it one more time. Because that first lesson that was applied in Ottoman Empire just went unnoticed.
You know, okay, it went unnoticed, but it didn't really go unnoticed, right?
Well, that's why I did this.
I think that, all right, let's do that for a second. So let's talk about German professors for a second and the French professors. So we're talking about Gustave Le Bon, about Sorel. These are the German professors at the time, Desmoulins. Then the German professors, of course, they're the ones who learned from Fichte, Marx, Hegel, all that. And now, the Ottomans take the lessons that they learn from the university lectures very seriously. They want to apply them. How to build a perfect society. Then what they do is, the Germans are, of course, also accomplices, so they're on the field. They are in Armenia during the genocide.
Yes.
Then this man named Hitler says, oh my God, they did it, I can too. He didn't forget. What the West said, and this is the part that is so scary, they told Raphael Lemkin, who was the man who coined the word genocide. Oh no, that's just the Turks. This could never happen on the other part of the world. And Lemkin said, no, of course it will. It will happen again and again and again. Because Lemkin was following the trial of Soghomon-Tehlirian. And in the trial of Soghomon-Tehlirian, the Germans, who, as they themselves admitted in their law, were accomplices. They admitted this in the Bundestag law in 2016, right? So not only do we acknowledge the Armenian genocide happened, we acknowledge that we're also responsible for it, to some degree. Now, in 1922, this is after the Treaty of Sèvres is not going to be adopted, because for 2 years they've been fighting a civil war in Turkey. The Germans want to distance themselves from the Armenian genocide. They have this huge show trial of Soghomon-Tehlirian, who killed Talat Pasha in Berlin. And in that trial, they give all the reasons why Soghomon-Tehlirian was not guilty. Like Lemkin sees the trial, goes to his professor and says, we need a law. We need a law because this is going to happen again. And his professor reportedly said, we cannot make such a law. If a farmer decides to kill his chickens, there is nothing you can do.
And here comes philosophy.
That's right.
If a farmer decides to kill their chickens, nothing will stop them. It's their right to do.
Exactly. And here's where philosophy is the big problem. When I started to study philosophy, I did it because you love the truth. You love wisdom. It's love of wisdom. Imastutun sira, right?
Իմաստասիրություն, այո,
Yeah, սիրությունը. Yeah, that's what it is.
Նկատեցիք, նույնիսկ վերլուծությունը գիտե, հայերենի վերլուծությունը գիտե, Siobhan Nash-Marshall.
So I love wisdom. I want to know the truth. But then you notice that where Plato loved wisdom, Aristotle, etc., etc. In the modern times, this is not the goal of philosophy. Something happened with the modern world, and it happened in the 17th century. And what happened was philosophy began to think, all right, we have to model the world to look like our ideas. You can see this in Descartes. Now, in Descartes is a mathematician, and he thinks we have to know everything with certainty. And then he says, to build a perfect society, you knock down the city and rebuild it according to rational principles.
From the scratch, from the ground up.
And the horrible thing is that that's exactly what the world began to do. So if you fast forward.
But Descartes believed that it's not maybe the only way, or it's not at least possible for one person to do that. However, he made it into a principle.
He made it into a principle. And then if you go to the French Revolution, and I think most people don't look at what happened during the French Revolution because at 1789 everything is going fine. After it's in 1792 that the extremists take over. And who are the extremists? They're the Cartesians.
Yes.
And that's when they want to change weeks no longer 7 days because this is not rational, let's make it 10. This is when they want to make a temple to the goddess Reason. This is when they want to change the names of the months. And this is when they decide that if you're an enemy of their project, we will kill you.
Of course. If you don't think like I do, if you don't agree with what I say, then you don't have the right to exist. Because they turned, I mean the others, those who don't agree, they turn into the chickens.
Yes, they do.
In the farmer.
They are the chickens because the poor farmer has to earn money, right?
And he has to live.
And he has to live.
Okay, so here is a point that I guess we can stop and take a little breath, and then we'll come back in a few minutes and continue from this point, but we'll build up on it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Կվաստերին հետ կվերաթարնանք։ Թանկագին արենագիցներ շարունակենք մեր զրույցը այս երեկոյան մեր դաղավարին է ցեզի հետ ցեզի կներկայանա պրոֆեսոր Siobhan Nash-Marshall-ը The Sins of the Fathers քրքին նոր հրատարակված նոր լույս տեսած եւ տակավին ընդամենը վաղը հանրության հանձնվելիք քրքին հեղինակը եւ մենք կխոսենք քրքի ոչ թե փոխանցագության մասին այնուամենայնիվ կխոսենք քրքի երևի յետին բահված մեծ մտքի մասին Professor Nash-Marshall, earlier, before we went to the break, we were talking about the idea of philosophy and how the philosophers or philosophy itself kind of twisted the arm of the reality and came up with some justifications for things that would change the truth and or the reality and make it according to the will of certain people or certain thoughts or a certain way of thinking. That was kind of social or political engineering or fabricating. Now we are witnessing it on a daily basis almost everywhere in the world. And that is historical fabricating.
Now, it's historical, but it's not just.
It's not, well, we're not saying just, we're saying it's fabricating, and usually fabricating tells us that it's not just, right?
That's true.
I don't know if I'm philosophizing now. I don't want to go into your field. However, the other part then here regarding the book or the big idea, that is the subtitle of the book. The title is The Sins of the Fathers, and the subtitle is Turkish Denialism and the Armenian Genocide. My question is, what's the difference between denial and denialism?
Denial is a noun that refers to a specific act.
Okay.
The denialism involved is a movement.
And a way of thinking.
And a way of thinking.
And that's exactly what I kindly would ask you to elaborate.
Oh.
If you don't mind.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll ask you a question. I'll ask all the guests a question, and it runs something like this. Imagine waking up in the morning and going into the bathroom and stepping on a scale. There is a number. You can pretend it's not that number, but you know it's a number. Now let's just say you change the scale, so if you weigh, I don't know, 120 pounds, 150 pounds, whatever you weigh, it comes out that you weigh 110 pounds. You know you're lying. Okay, you're not denying it. You've entered a different world. That's the world of denialism. Let's look at Turkey for a moment. I find it very hard to understand someone who pretends that he is what he's not. I find it difficult because I have to say goodnight to myself at night. I have to say, good night, Siobhan, and then I have to wake up in the morning and say,
good morning, Siobhan.
Good morning, Siobhan. And if I am not truthful with myself, what kind of a night can it be or day can it be? And I am going to say, I did this and I did that, or I didn't do this and I didn't do that, and whatever. This is who I am. Now, Turkey, let's look at the facts. The facts are the facts. We know they are not native to the Western world. We know this because they came over from Central Asia during written history.
Yes.
This is not prehistory. Yes. This is not...
No mythology, no...
No!
Okay.
We know when the hordes came. We also know when they defeated the natives, the Battle of Mazinkert. We know these things.
We know some history at least.
Yes, we do. Now, what's interesting to me is Turkey is like the person stepping on the scale who weighs 500 pounds and says, whew, thank God, it's only 50. And you say...
I'm fit.
Yes. And you say, no, you're not. Because you invented too much. You've destroyed too much. You are not from that. It's all a lie. It's a house of cards. And this is a very difficult position for Turkey because what they have to do is enforce it through strength, through power. And this has to happen over and over and over and over. So let me bore you with some details.
No, you are making me have joy.
Oh, thank you. Well, I was thinking, for instance...
Intellectual joy.
Oh, thank you. At the beginning of the 18th century, so the beginning of the 19th century, so the 1800s or so, the sultans know the empire is finished. They know it because the Russians have defeated them soundly. Big defeat.
True.
So the sultan wakes up and says, aye, it's going away. So what are we going to do to change this? Well, we have to find a reason to make the peoples of the empire follow us. This is the problem. Now, again, let's look at facts. 1800s Ottoman Empire, and let's compare that to Roman Empire 1,500 years before, or
16 centuries ago.
Now, the funny thing about the Roman Empire is that the Roman Empire brought laws, it brought roads. It was harsh when it conquered, but it brought laws, it brought roads. Everyone was a citizen if he wanted to be. So much did the Romans also enter into the daily lives of the people of the empire, that the Spaniards, who were not Latins, speak Latin. The French speak Latin, a Latin language. The Romanians still do. So, in other words, they have a culture, a very strong culture.
Yes.
Pax Romana, right? Lex Romana. This is this. What do the Turks have? Similar to this. They have
I'm waiting
nothing.
for the answer.
Nothing. There is not cohesive. The Romans immediately built roads so that the soldiers could move, so that there could be communication between parts of the empire. Anatolia had no real roads. They had no real communication. Romans brought law.
They contributed somehow to humanities, right?
Yes. Now, what did the Turks have? What
They
did
had
the
sultans
Ottomans?
and they had harem and they had...
Yeah, but what did they add? What was there to make this whole empire united? Nothing. And it's interesting because when they come up with this, the solution they have is we have to find an identity. Now, here's, again, Turkey and its denialism. They realize they have to find or define or invent an identity. This starts off in the 1800s. So then we have the period of the Tanzimat. And in Tanzimat, they're trying to find an identity, to unite everyone in the empire.
Somehow.
Somehow. And it doesn't work. The Armenians, as soon as the Tanzimat laws are passed, they're in this middle of this Zartonk, thanks to my favorite, my hero, Mkhitar Sebastiatsi. I love that man. I love him because of the clarity of the program, the beauty. I'm in awe of you Armenians, how you manage to have these people to solve the problems that other peoples never have. Let me give you an example.
We have 30 seconds.
Oh, shucks. Well, the language problem for Armenians.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote grammars.
Yes.
In 1720. The Greeks still haven't solved that problem. Right? And
In 2017.
Yes. And how so? He wrote a grammar for not just Karapar, that's one, but a grammar for vernacular, for the spoken Armenian. Mm-hmm. So that you actually had a codified language. He used it to write. He educated people with it. He collected the history books. He wrote the...
What did the Ottoman Sultan do? We'll try to answer that question, if it is possible to answer, when we come back from our break, if you don't mind. Այսպես հարկելի բարեկամներ, մեր դաղավարին պրոֆեսոր Siobhan Nash-Marshall-ն է, եւ մենք գենթաթրեմ գունենանք իրարու հետ, ցեզի հետ, մտային բարձր մագարտակի զրույց։ Շարունակենք հարկելի հարազատներ պրոֆեսոր Siobhan Nash-Marshall-ն է մեզի հետ այս երեկո զրույցի շարժարիթը իր նոր հրատարակած գիրքը, որը փաստորեն վաղը, ուրեմն չորեքշաբթի դեկտեմբեր 13-ի երեկոյան ժամը 7:30-ին առաջին անգամ լալով կներկայացվի հանրության Գլենդելի հանրային գրադարանի մեջ։ Բոլորդ վստահ եմ գիտեք 222 East Harvard, Գլենդելի հանրային գրադարանի մեջ տեղի կունենա Siobhan Nash-Marshall-ի ուրեմն գրքի ողջունահանդեսը եւ առաջին անգամ կներկայացվի մեր հանրության։ Գիրքը ունի յուրահատուկ բնույթ, ես արդեն կարդացած եմ գիրքը ունի յուրահատուկ բնույթ այն առումով, որ մոդեցման եղանակը բոլորովին դարբեր է բոլոր այն գրքերեն, որոնց մենք ծանոթ ենք, որոնք կխոսին ցեղասպանության կամ ցեղասպանության շարժարիթներու մասին։ So why did you know? You understood what I said, right?
I did, yeah. Please do come to the lecture tomorrow.
So we were talking before the break. I've heard this question. I don't remember where. Maybe I read it somewhere. Maybe I heard it from someone when they said over 600 years or about 600 years of Ottoman Empire, not one single contribution to humanity, other than massacres, killings, occupying other countries, just widening and broadening the empire, and after all, becoming the Europe's, I don't know why, Europe's sick man, and then the entire wealth had been divided among the allies. So, what did they do? In about 400 or 500 years, or close to 600 years. You're talking about the Roman Empire.
Yeah, well, let me quote what Halide Edip said, because I did deal with that issue, and I didn't want to answer with the Nipages or the various people. Mandelstam wrote, saying nothing, I wanted to use one of them to answer the question.
Why specifically Halide Edip?
Well, for two reasons. Number one, I don't know if you've seen Ein Tura. And in Ein Tura, she had this Turkification orphanage, which is one of the most horrendous places I have ever thought of. And it goes back, in my mind, to Descartes and trying to mold man into something we want him to be. And I think of these little Armenian orphans who were whipped on the bottom of their feet with a falacha so that they won't speak Armenian, or they answer to different names. So one reason is because I knew what she had done in Ein Tura.
I see.
But the second reason is because she is one of the leading intellectuals in Turkey, and at that time. And I think that most people think that women are going to be good. And her biography is actually never used. So I figure I will use that instead of using the various other thinkers.
Good.
And she also wrote it in English, and she's also a politician. So she's very much involved in this whole thing.
Thank you.
So, is that a good answer? Yeah. So
we're not in a test. There's no bad answer, and there's no stupid question. Are we philosophizing again?
Yes.
I'll stop.
And by the way, let me tell you, that's not true. There were stupid questions.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Here,
and when's the last time when you were in a classroom?
Last time?
Yeah.
I don't want to say it, but you're forcing me to. Today.
Okay. No stupid questions today?
No
Yesterday,
stupid questions.
maybe?
Because I didn't believe they were stupid questions. But let's go back to our topic.
So Halil Edip writes in her memoirs that in 1908 they have no culture.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that answers your question. What do they have? Nothing. And that becomes the problem, because if you don't have an identity, you can't get people to join you to keep the empire consolidated.
You need something to unify, at least an idea, a big idea, but no matter what they did, no matter what they tried, no matter what they attempted,
it all failed.
They did not have that big idea. They did not have that axis around which they could consolidate an empire.
I still think they don't today, and I think probably the Republic of Turkey really hates me, but I love the truth more. And I think that they probably, arguably they still don't. And here is my reasoning. The big problem throughout the 19th century is find an identity, find an identity. They tried to create an identity called Ottomanism, whatever that meant. We were all members of an empire that somehow was never unified to begin with. Then they tried with the Red Sultan, they tried Islamism, yes? He's the Caliph, and so he's the united, okay.
Pan-Turkism.
Pan-Turkism, they tried that. But every time it didn't work, out came violence. So
keep it on, please.
So out comes violence. So you look, Islamism doesn't work, violence. They don't know what to do in the First World War, violence. There was a coup d'etat a few years ago.
Less than a year ago, or actually a little more than a year
ago.
A year
ago, and I think in response to this, I have read this in newspapers, and so I'm trusting them to this extent, that 140,000...
The way you said it, it sounds like you don't trust them.
Well,
okay.
It's hard to.
Okay,
it's hard
okay.
To. But I hear that 140,000 people were thrown in jail. Now, I just need you to think about the repression going on there. Now, you only repress if there is the identity that you have been trying to impose has not been accepted. So I ask you this question, and I have tried to understand Erdogan in two ways. I want to know if he's more like the Red Sultan or if he's more like Mustafa Kemal. There are two different attempts to impose an identity, but they're always trying to impose an identity. And then I look and I see Erdogan doing the same thing. I ask myself why. I realize it's the same problem. The Kurds don't want to be Turks. They were called Turks by law until 1990. The Laz finally got their first history written down at the end of the 80s. They don't want to be Turkish. So what you have is, again, these peoples who don't want to be Turkish. So back to the repression.
Because they are not Turks.
Well, of course they're not. And that's the next question. So let me ask you a question. You know the old argument that the Turks use with the Armenians. Turks were killed too. They always say this, yes? But they don't tell you if they were Turks. They don't tell you how many, where, and in what circumstances. Because, let me point out something no one tells you. According to the census of the Ottoman Empire, it's by millet. There's no such thing as a Turkish millet. There's Islamic millet, not Turkish. So we don't even know how many Turks there were.
Yes.
So the question, Turks were killed, well, not according to you. According to your census, it's Muslims are killed.
They could have been Arabs.
They could have been Arabs.
They could have been Kurds.
Absolutely. They could have been from Bosnia. They could have been, right, there have always been Muslims throughout. And so Turks were killed? No, not really. So what is the Turk is the big problem. What is the identity is the big problem. And then they have had fantastic attempts to try to invent that they actually had a culture that contributed to humanity. So in my book, I actually deal with my favorite, which is the fake history called the history thesis, the Turkish history thesis. And it's worth reading when you read the book because the Turks claim, after Mustafa Kemal, that they are the inventors of all cultures. So the legend goes like this. When man was in the cave and didn't speak and just grunted.
Keep going.
Yes. The first ones who actually began to speak and make sense out of sounds were the Turks.
Okay. So this is worth actually taking a break so we can digest that reality.
Absolutely.
And then we'll come back and we'll try to wrap it up as much as we can.
Okay.
Եվ այսպես հարգելի բարեկամներ, կողասներին հետ կվերադառնանք եւ կփորձենք եզրափակել այս զրույցը։ Մնացեք մեզի հետ։ Այսպես հարգելի բարեկամներ, մեր վերջին հատվածն է այս երեկոյան մեր դահավարին է պրոֆեսոր Siobhan Nash-Marshall-ը։ Siobhan Nash-Marshall-ը իմիջայլոց Manhattanville College-ի ուրեմն քրիստոնեական փիլիսոփայության Christian philosophy բաժնի վարիչն է եւ պրոֆեսոր է իհարկե նույն բաժնի մեջ։ And I just remembered something, or my word reminded me of something. This has nothing to do with Christianity or Christian. We're not talking about Christianity, we're not talking about religion, we're not talking against any other religion, we're talking about humanity, right?
Of course.
The book is talking about philosophy, and I think I have to tell, պետք է ասեմ, որ այս մեկը առաջին, եթե գուզեք, հադորն է, երահադոր աշխատասիրությամը, որը պիտի գոչվի կամ իր ընդհանրության մեջ կգոչվի The Betrayal of Philosophy, փիլիսոփայության թավաջանումը։ Ճիշտ եմ։
Ճիշտ է։
Այս մեկը առաջինն է։ Երկրորդը երբ պիտի ելնի։
Չեմ գիտեր, որովհետև հիմա պետք ունեմ 3 շատ մեծ հոդվածը։ Գնալար 2 տարի։
Գնալար 2 տարի։ Համբերությամբ կսպասենք եւ գբազի որ Siobhan Nash-Marshall-ը հանգիստ հայերեն ալ գխոսի եւ ինչու՞ չէ այս հատվածը հայերենով ամփոփչացնենք։ Ուրեմն ինչպես որ գսեի, վաղը դեկտեմբեր 13-ին Չորեքշաբթի երեկոյան ժամի 7:30 Գլենդեյլի հանրային գրադարանի մեջ տեղի կունենա քրքի ողջունահանդեսը։ Մենք կխոսեինք ուրեմն թրքական այսօրվա իրավիճակին մասին, այսօրվա քաղաքական մտածողության մասին, այսօրվա քաղաքական ուղղություններու մասին, որոնք կշարունակեն ըլլալ այն փորձը, որը թերևս սկսած էր ինչպես որ քիչ առաջ գսեք 1800-ական թվականներն։ Այսօր դակավին այդ գործվածությունը կշարունակի եւ այդ գործվածության հետևանքով մարդիկ զոհ կերտան։ Ճիշտ է։ Ճիշտ է։
Ճիշտ է, բայց ես Okay, եթե ես կրնամ կփորձեմ, որովհետև Նյու Յորքի մեջ ես չեմ կրնալ հայերեն խոսիլ, որովհետև միշտ ավելի շատ կորձ ունեմ, եւ եթե ես սախալեն եմ
ոչինչ, մեր քիլոները լավ կհասկանան այդ բոլորը։
Ես մտածեմ, որ հիմա մենք շատ հույս պետք ունենք ունել։ Որովհետև as քրիստոնյա չէ եւ ես չեմ ասել որ մուսուլման եւ չարեն ոչ
Այո, հասկանալի է։
Ես մտածեմ որ ճիշտ խնդիրը արևմտամշակույթի մեջ է։
Արևմտյան մշակույթի մեջ է։ Ինչու համար արևմտյան մշակույթի մեջ է ճիշտ խնդիրը։
Որովհետև եթե մարդը իրավություն truth իրականություն չի սիրել եւ չի ապրի միշտ պիտի խնդիրը լա ունիլ միշտ Եվ ես մտածեմ, որ այսօր մարդը իրականությունը չի սիրեն եւ շատ մեծ խնդիր է։ Ես պիտի բացատրեմ քիչ մը։
Խնդրեմ, հանգիստ։
Եթե ես կարդամ քիրքը, պատմությունը առաջին աշխարհը ճակատամարտ, how do you say it? First World War.
Առաջին համաշխարհային պատերազմ։
Okay, I'm sorry. I got that completely
You're
wrong.
perfect. You're perfect. Խնդրեմ, շարունակենք։
Մարդը չի պիտի քրել պատմությունը հայերենի պատմությունը, հայերը պատմությունը։ Պիտի ոչինչ ասել, կամ եթե բանասեն քիչ են եւ չեն ասել սուտը շատ կարևոր է։ Շատ կարևոր է, որովհետեւ առաջին անգամ մեր պատմությունի մեջ սուտը մեր մշակույթի մաս becomes.
Գտարնա։
The
problem is, this is becoming a constant, continuously prevailing մշակույթ, սուդի մշակույթը, սուդի կերակայությունը, որովհետև այսօր TV-ները, լրատվությունը, ամեն ինչ կներկայացնեն ճիշտ այնպես, ինչպես որ հակառակն է։
And if the leaders of the Western world, let me just quickly say this in English, simply because I need to get the point across. The Armenian genocide, yes, is caused by the Turks. If anyone asks me something like, where is the smoking gun? I'm going to tell you, what are you talking about? You never prove intent through a piece of paper. I have never met any criminal who says, don't be home at 4 o'clock on Thursday because I am going to come and kill you or steal your things. Criminals never write this down. I am now going to steal and break legal code. This is not. How do you prove intent? Well, you improve it, by the way. One is false exculpatory statements. So if I say, and I lie, I never did it, and then I give you all sorts of reasons why I didn't, like, oh, it was a civil war, oh, they killed us too,
oh, it was the World War I.
Oh, it was World War I, and so many. These are all, since they contradict each other, false exculpatory statements. That's proof of intent. Number one. Number two, in 1915, nearly 25% of modern-day Turkey was Christian. 25%. Today, it's less than 0.1%. By 1927, it was under 5%. Now, this is so radical, so fast, that it has to be a cataclysm. Because
it has to be explained somehow.
It has to be explained. Now, when I say it's not just the Turks, because you have to think about the genocide happening today to Armenians. Lying is part of the genocide. You are all victims of genocide.
Well, at one point, it had been concluded that the denial of a genocide is another genocide.
But I think it's the same one.
It is the same one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, unfortunately, the time has to decide where to stop and when to stop, unfortunately. And somehow, at one point, we have to stop. But the good thing is that we'll still have tomorrow. And tomorrow night, Wednesday the 13th, it's not the Friday 13th, good. Wednesday the 13th, we will have this book presentation. Կրկին ներկայացման ուրեմն միջոցառումը դեղի կունենա Գլենդեյլի հանրային գրադարանի մեջ, Չորեքշաբթի դեկտեմբեր 13-ի երեկոյան ժամը 7:30-ին։ And at one point you were mentioning in a book about the correspondence between Professor Lowry and Ambassador Kandemir, that both knew and admitted in their exchange letters that it was reality, it was truth, but they had to deny it because of several reasons, because of that's how the Sultan wanted, or the Sultan wanted. In this case, the Sultan could be anyone in power. However, it is our last 1 minute, or less than 1 minute. I would leave you. Aranցին բիդիպսկեմ տիդողներուն հետ ինչ կուզես ասել ազատս կա խնդրեմ.
Well, then I say this to you, Armenians. Do not give in. You are my heroes. They have tried to destroy you, and yet you are still here. Your culture is a thing of beauty. It must be protected. Live it. Do not let it become a historical memory. Be Armenian. Know your history. Rejoice in it. Be strong. And invite your Odar friends tomorrow, because I'll talk to them.
Ամենալավ վերջապաններ, որ գրնային կունենալ այսօր պրոֆեսոր Siobhan Nash-Marshall-ի վերջին խոսքերը. Բարին ընդ ձեզ.